Lake Valley is a smashing success. Residents from across the state and beyond have been flocking to its theaters, nightclubs, bars, and restaurants. But that success has come at a cost. And unfortunately, it's Segunda Beach that's paying it. Rather than becoming a destination, Segunda Beach has become a pit stop, a place to refuel, restock, and move on. It's like a gas station with a better view. Local officials are panicking. Property values are starting to slip, and with them, tax revenues. And if things don't turn around, city services could be on the chopping block next. So Mayor Beacon takes action. He directs the city's planner, Jack, to find a way to get DS on any development proposals that come through the door, especially those with commercial or tourism potential. Jack pushes back. He reminds the mayor that not all development is good development, but the mayor isn't hearing it. Things are too dire for principals, and word gets out. Before long, the city's approached by Westward Malls with a major proposal, a suburban-style mall near the Verde Coast and Golden Highway interchange. The project includes a supermarket, big box stores, chain restaurants, a theater, hotel, truck stop, and a car dealership. Basically everything you'd expect at a place where you could buy a couch and a corn dog in the same afternoon. All Westward wants is a bit of help building the roads, something a bit of tax increment financing could help with. The mayor is thrilled and throws his full support behind the project. Jack, not so much. He warns that the layout will generate a ton of traffic, that the land use mix, or lack thereof, encourages driving, not walking or taking transit, and that the transit plan submitted with the project won't offset the sheer volume of cars this project will attract. As a certified planner, he has to speak honestly and make recommendations based on his professional expertise. So at the city council meeting, after presenting the proposal, he recommends rejecting it. The mayor is clearly furious, and as Jack sits down from his presentation, a group of residents stands, holding a photo with a park full of tents. It's captioned, "Norland wants us homeless." The chamber erupts and boos rain down. And while the mayor would normally admonish the crowd, he sits silently, expressionless, doing nothing to calm the room. After things settle down, the council votes unanimously to approve the mall. Jack works to hide his emotions from the crowd. Now, rumor has it Russ Becker had something to do with the demonstration, and that he just might be invested in the project himself. That's just a rumor, of course, though. So today, we're gonna build this thing. And yes, it'll be an auto-oriented monstrosity. And yes, I'll probably hear about it in the comments. But it's the kind of development that defines so much of North America. So we're gonna build it as realistically as possible. And maybe, just maybe, in the future we'll find ways to fix it. And if you're excited to build some big box sprawl, hit the like button. And if you're just trusting the process, hit the like button for that too, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Or leave an emoji representing big box stores for the sake of engagement. But before we jump in, it's that time of the month again where I get to tell you how much I love Bombas. And just because it's warmer out doesn't mean that you don't need socks. It just means that it's time for socks and sandals. And luckily for you, Bombas makes both. Their Friday slides are light as air and incredibly comfortable. And of course, they pair beautifully with Bombas socks. But Bombas makes so much more. Did you know that they also make t-shirts? I've been rocking the men's premium weight t-shirt a ton lately, and I love it. It's soft, fits well, and the thickness gives it that premium feel. It's warm enough for a chilly spring morning, but it's also light enough for a warm afternoon. It's basically the best shirt that I own. And of course, I've got to mention my all-time favorites, the gripper slippers. They're cozy, warm, and I basically live in them. But I think that the best part about Bombas is their mission. For every item you purchase, they donate an essential item of clothing to someone in need. One purchased equals one donated. And to date, they donated over 150 million items, which I think is incredible. Plus, they back everything with their 100% happiness guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied, they'll take care of free returns or exchanges, no questions asked. So feel good and do good with Bombas. New customers get 20% off their first purchase. Just go to bombas.com/cityplanner and use code cityplanner at checkout. And Bombas now offers international shipping, so you can get all this comfy goodness no matter where you live. A huge thanks to Bombas for sponsoring another video. Now let's get back to it. We're going to begin by making some enhancements to our transportation network and doing a little bit of site preparation. Now, the reason I want to begin here is this project is going to demand a lot of the transportation network in the area, and I just don't think that we have enough capacity right now. But I also want to plan for future capacity, so I'm going to take this road and separate it. Now we're going to take San Martin Obispo Street and upgrade this to have 4 lanes. And obviously this is less than ideal, so I'll need to make a super note here. And now I'm going to run this road all the way through our site and connect up over here by the landfill. And I would say that in most normal instances, this road would not be constructed right now, but because tax increment financing is a consideration, it's being funded with TIF. Now, the final thing that I want to do here is a little bit of grading. This is just going to make our entire project a lot easier. So we're going to level out a large pad right here. And then the final thing that we have to do is purchase a map tile because we're going to be building in this area right here. And this will be a little bit under $500,000 and $60,000 per month. No big deal, we can handle that. And with that, our basic roadway layout and site preparation is complete. So let's move on to building our mall. Now I want this to look as realistic as possible. So as a result, I've done a lot of asset research for this particular build, and I think I have the perfect configuration. So the very first thing that I want to do is just plop a whole bunch of assets. And I want these to feel like big box assets, the kinds of things that you might see at a suburban shopping center. So think experiential type uses as well as shopping type uses. So speaking of experiential uses, we're going to have those right on the edge here. Things that you wouldn't necessarily see and stop at, but things that because you drive past them all the time, you know where they are. And when your kids have a birthday party, you know how to get there. And that's where we're beginning with the Pinfall Palace. Behind that, I'm going to put the Apex Climbing Park. Next to that, I'm going to put Nitro Kingdom, the Cine Vista, and then Morrissey's Supermarket. Now, the whole reason that I'm laying it out like this is so that you could see the supermarket from the highway, and that if you were to go there, you'd have to drive past all of this stuff. So you'd know it's there because the grocery store is probably the place that you go to the most frequently. Now, at the front of this road, I want to have some small-scale retail uses. And for that, we're going to use some of my favorite commercial assets, at least for this, the 5x2 Southwestern commercial assets. Now, reasonably, any of these could do the trick, but I like the level 3s. To me, they feel like they are nice enough to be modern, but not so nice that they feel out of place. And I'm not sure how many of these I'm going to need just yet, so I'll place a couple of these right here, and we'll come back and add more as we need to. Now I want to figure out parking for this entire area. And as you look at this, you might think this looks crazy. We've got a whole bunch of parking lots on the sides of these assets. I get that, and I'm going to be deleting basically all of it and drawing my own. I don't know that it's possible to make a realistic shopping center with the parking that comes with these assets. So to begin, I'm going to draw the entryways into this area, and I'm going to use a local road for that. And I'll add 2 of those for now. There'll probably be one more at the edge of the shopping center, but that'll probably be all that we have in here. Next, I want to switch over to the alleys. And these are going to be for most of the major circulation through the site. And now we're ready to slide these into place. So I've added a road behind this. That's the service road so that you'd be able to, drop things off at the rear entryway of the building. And I think because we're doing this, because we're facing the front of the building into the parking lot, the planner would require 4-sided architecture, which this building kind of has. Now, it might be easier and cleaner just to get rid of these and clone this one. So I'll just do that. The more I think about this asset, the less I want to use it. And it's all because I can't move these close to one another. So I'm going to go back to the drawing board, and I think I'll go with the level 5 instead. And I like that a ton more. Now let's get these first 2 assets in place. First thing I'm going to do is extend the local road out to approximately where I want the loading road to be. And now it's time to deconstruct these assets. So for this, we're going to Better Bulldozer, and I want to remove the sub-elements of these assets and make sure that we have remove markers selected because I'm going to be removing all the networks throughout the assets. So all of these roads, so that's the ones that have the pedestrian paths, the green lines and the blue lines, we're going to get rid of all of these. Or at least the ones that extend into where the existing roads are on this asset. Then I want to get rid of some of these markers. So these are the static objects filters that are basically in the middle of the parking lot. These ones will cause conflicts for us. And then just to clean things up for myself, I'm going to get rid of some of the components of this asset, including the asphalt, the grass, and some of the parking stalls. And now you might be thinking, this asset is totally broken. There's nothing that I can do with this, but that's not true. Now I can basically do whatever I want with this asset. So I want to draw the road that'll go right in the front of this. And then I've drawn the back of the parking lot as well. Now I want to spin this around so that the building is facing in the correct direction. And now I need to build the service roads around this. And this should work just fine for us. And you can see the building is connected. Everything is just fine. Now, another way to double check is just to click on this. Sometimes you'll see that there is a service vehicle in use. If the service vehicle is in use, you know without a doubt that the building is working. But another way to check is once we add the parking, if it starts filling up. So we'll just have to wait and find out. Let's do the exact same thing to our Apex gym here. And this one's interesting in that the parking is a road. So no parking stalls to get rid of. And now for this one, I think I'm going to place the asset right on this road that we added right here. And I'd love to get the service road to line up really nicely with this one. And then ideally, the rear service road would line up with all the rest of these. So I want to think about where this one's going to line up. So I think that an arrangement like this should work out okay for us. We have access to our loading zone right here, and the building is happy. We just have to get rid of a couple more components of this asset, and it should look perfect. That is lovely. Now, before we move on from this area, I do want to add some of the parking. And for this, I'm going to be using the one-way perpendicular parking alleys throughout this entire site. Now, where I can, I will parallel these. Where I can't, I'll just try to be really careful, making sure that we have snapping to existing geometry and 90-degree angles on at all times. And this place is looking pretty good, and I can tell that the assets are functional. You can see that there are people leaving the Apex Park, which is perfect. And I see some vehicles driving around here and parked in front, which to me means that these are totally fine. Now, there is more that I need to do here. Clearly, there's a lot of lighting and things of that nature. We'll take care of that in one fall swoop. But for now, I think that this is going to be good enough. So let's turn our attention to our next assets, where we're going to do the exact same thing. So remove all of the parking, rotate it around to make it feel as good as it can be, and make sure that it has loading access as well. Now, I did notice one quick thing. This asset is rotated around incorrectly. So even though we planned this asset based on the layout of this one, I've got to rotate it. It's not currently situated correctly. Now, this one asset in particular presents some unique challenges. And one of the reasons I'm so focused on the way that it's laid out is that the dashed lines in the road, I can't get rid of those. So I'm going to have to build with those in mind. So I'm going to remove everything on the asset. Then I'm going to replace a circulation pattern following those dashed lines. Now, you can see that there's not much left of the asset, but this main service access road is in the wrong spot now. So I will remove this, and that'll cause us to reconfigure the rest of them as well. And now what I want to do is draw this right underneath that dashed line. And then right here, we're going to shift it up. So it looks like it's about one tile, one unit up. I'll give myself a guide. And then we'll carefully draw it in just like that. I'm going to shift the asset so that this is perfect, and that looks pretty darn good. And now I should be able to go all the way around here and have the road right underneath that dashed line. And we can preserve this as green space, or we could have a retention pond, whatever. I'm not going to worry about that space right here. Now, in the front of this, we're going to do something kind of interesting. So we'll begin by drawing this road straight down here. This frames out our parking lot. And we'll do the exact same thing right here. But I also want to divide this in half. I don't want it to be one solid block of parking. So we'll plan on doing something like that. And truthfully, I might actually shift this. And that's a nod to most of the parking being for this building. And now we can draw it in. And honestly, at this point, we know exactly what we're doing for the entire site. So I'm just going to finish this off. And here we have the bones of our shopping center. And I gotta tell you, I decided to do a bit of off-camera work. I just wanted to make sure that the parking lots were lined up as nicely as they could be. I removed all the lights and all the props, and I really think that it elevates things. Now, I'm guessing if you're a European, you're thinking to yourself, why is there this much parking? It's outrageous. Here's the thing, it is outrageous. But each one of these users would be planning for parking for their busiest day of the year. They wouldn't want to lose any business, and they'd build a whole bunch of parking as a result. So that means that for these recreational type uses, they'd want to plan for the day that they have 4 birthday parties going on at once. For the cinema, they're planning for the day that they've got 2 blockbusters that are showing at the exact same time. For the grocery store, they're thinking about the day before Thanksgiving. And for all these retailers, they're thinking about Black Friday. So as a result, you end up with way too much parking, way too much asphalt, and it ends up looking like this most of the time. This is something that I want to tackle in a future video. I want to figure out how to add density to this, and I have some different references and books that I want to apply. But for now, this looks very realistic to me. But this is only a portion of our mall, so let's build the other half. The second half of our shopping center is going to look a lot like the first half. The major difference is going to be the mix of uses. I want to have more uses that require a lot of visibility, and I want to focus them along the highway. So think uses like motels, gas stations, fast food restaurants, things that you would drive by and maybe decide to stop and go check them out. We're also going to have some more small-scale retail uses along San Martin Obispo, and then in the back, I want to have a Costco type user, so a big retail anchor. We are going to give Jack his one win. We will consolidate access points here. So rather than having a bunch more access added to San Martin Obispo, we're going to require this be the primary access point into this new shopping center across the street as well. And with the street going through here, I tried to mirror the highway so that we would maximize the visibility along this street. Now we're ready to add some of our uses. And I want to start down here with some hotels. Now for these, I have the perfect asset in mind. We're gonna look for a 5x3 Southwestern Hotel, level 5. And this is the one to me that looks the most like a La Quinta, which is why I want to place these ones in particular. Now, we've got to change the orientation of these. Generally, this front would have a street on there where maybe you could do a drop off, and then all the parking would be along that as well. And this wouldn't face Mulberry Street. It would likely face the highway so that if you were driving by, you could see that there was plenty of availability here. So let's once again use the alleys to create a circulation pattern for our parking lot. Now, right here is where our fast food and our gas stations are going to go. I'm going to place the gas station in the corner and then the fast food right next to it. Now, for the gas station, I'm going to go for a 4x6 European gas station. And reasonably, I think that they all look just fine. So I'll probably go with the level 1. And I'm going to temporarily place that right there, but it will be moved in short order. And then next to this, we're going to go with some 4x4 Southwestern commercial. There is a perfect drive-through asset. The level 1s kind of look like an older fast food restaurant. And then as you level up, it starts to look like maybe like a newer Taco Bell or something like that. I thought that maybe I could squeeze 3 in here, but I don't think that I can. And that's because we require some sort of a rear access here. And this has me thinking, maybe we add sidewalks to the front of this. And then I'll add an access to the rear. Just like that. And then I can just spread out these surfaces. And that looks very reasonable to me. There's only one thing I want to change. You can see that it would be really easy to have some sort of connection between these 2 parking lots, and I think that it would absolutely exist. And that'll do the trick for us there. So this leaves an empty parcel right here. I'm okay with that. I'm going to imagine that this is for sale and it just hasn't sold. And as a result, we've got some extra space. This could also be an area for stormwater or something like that in the future as well. For our main retail anchor, we have to go with the marketplace. This is that European signature building that looks like an IKEA or a Costco. It is huge and it is perfect for this build. It does have a whole bunch of parking, but we are going to remove that just like we did with the other assets and build something that's completely custom. But before we get to that, I want to place a couple more things. And I think next to this, we might want to place an Olive Garden looking asset. I know that we've already used the Oasis kitchen over in Lake Valley, but this does look a lot like an Olive Garden, and you'd expect to see this in more than one location. So I'm going to place this here and try to have the parking lot conform to the angle in this building and the Olive Garden looking building right here. And then in the front of this, I want to mirror what we've done for the other side. So we'll use the exact same asset, the exact same configuration, and try to mirror everything completely. Next, I want to figure out what to do with these local roads. So I'm thinking that we are going to have a circulation with these that maybe goes up and into this facility if we can. So I'm going to send that there for now. And then I just want to test something. Yeah, this is going to be likely too wide unless we get really creative. So what I'm going to do instead is something like this, which is basically the path of least resistance. This will be much simpler to put together. And on second thought, instead of trying to send this local road right into the facility, why don't we just use it as a delineation in between our small scale retail uses and our Costco? And now we'll make a couple of connections here into this facility. And now we're ready to finally put together our parking here. And this is going to be a little bit of a trick because I want to really make sure that everything is as functional as possible. So this is going to be our ideal location for this because I want to share this access. Then for this, I want to line this up as nicely as I can with the corner of the building right here to make it feel like the parcel kind of just extends over. And now we are going to delete significant components of each of these. So again, all of our mixed parking pedestrian roads. Then all the decals, then the surfaces. Then I also want to get rid of this playground. This is a really strange thing for me to see here, so that's gone. And then we'll do the exact same thing over here to Olive Garden. And then there's all this parking in the rear of the building. We have to get rid of all of this as well. And I don't think I'm going to replace that, truthfully. And then there's a car wash right here, and I have to eliminate this as well. Now, I still want this to function, so I'm going to add a road through there, and we'll see if we can get it working. Okay, so now it's worth trying to draw our parking lot roads through here. And the one thing to know about this is as I draw these through here, I won't be able to delete them unless I pull a node using Move It or move the asset itself. So it's really important that I'm methodical about this and really meticulous and only using the snap twos that I need, because otherwise if I make a mistake, it's going to be really difficult to fix it. So I'm going to begin over here. This is probably the easiest spot to begin. And that's because I know that I want to come up here, go through this side, and then up and over. And I'm not 100% sure the angle for this just yet. So I'm going to draw a road right up here so that we have that nice grid. Now, before I go any further, I just want to see if this is truly broken or not. There's a whole bunch of pedestrian icons. So I'm going to select the item and then use Move It to Control H down to the road. And if it does that, it means that we still have things that we have to delete. I think I know what's causing the problem. I think it's probably this pedestrian path right here. And my guess is if I move it one more time, now it'll work. And interestingly enough, it was actually a flagpole and the remaining items that were over here. After I got rid of these, everything was just fine, and you can see that it's working perfectly. So now all we have to do is reestablish our parking through here. And this is simple enough. We're just going to throw in our parallel mode once again, and just run these up and down. And then lastly, I just want to complete the circulation pattern through here. You can see it kind of just ends abruptly. So I'm going to make a connection. And that we've got these two irregular parcels right here. What I think I'm gonna do is just pull this one back down so it feels like we never graded this one out right here. And we'll forest this area. And then right here, I'm going to create a pond. We've created a whole bunch of impervious surface area, so having some sort of a pond and not relying 100% on this would probably make some sense. And that should do the trick right there for us. I am noticing one thing though. I don't have things extending to the rear of this facility, so I need to add something like this so that there's loading access. That is much better. And speaking of rear access, I should finish the parking lot back here as well. And initially I wasn't gonna do anything this big, but I figure we might as well. I'll just redraw the fences back here. This also gives us an opportunity to maybe fix this road. I don't love that it jets out like this. And that is a considerably better configuration in my opinion. And there's one more final component to the mall, and that's gonna be right here. It's going to be our truck stop. And this is just plopping an asset. This is the one-stop station. And we'll do something like that so that we're not loading directly from our arterial. And initially I was gonna run this local road directly into San Martin Obispo right here, but we absolutely shouldn't run that into the curb. That would be incredibly unsafe. That's why I had to run it a little bit further back, and now we have a safe junction. And with our mall complete, let's move on to building our car dealership. I bet you'll never be able to guess what we're about to build. That's right, another parking lot. This one's gonna be a little bit different though, in that we are going to be building an auto dealership that has a ton of cars in it. So I want this to feel really full. I also want to take up as much space as possible. Generally with car dealerships, they want to cram as many cars on the lot as they can, and they want to use up as much space as they absolutely can. So to that end, we're going to be drawing a gigantic ring road all the way around here. And I wanted to draw the first couple of lots in to kind of frame the space a little bit before we add the actual dealership itself. Now, for the dealership, I've got some very specific assets that I want to use. We're going to search for the Southwest Commercial Level 5 buildings. And within this, there are these two buildings that have curved fronts, and I'm going to use both of them. We're going to use the 4x4 right here, and we'll use the 6x5 right here. And we're not going to just leave them right here. We're going to modify them some and push them together. Now, these to me look exactly like an auto dealership. There's kind of a service bay right here where maybe they would detail. And if we bring two of these together, maybe we can make it feel like one cohesive structure. And this right here is the service center. This is sales. Now, I'm going to play with the exact location of this building based upon where our parking lots line up. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to draw these first couple and figure out where things were going to completely lay out. And you can see that these aren't totally straight. So I'm going to fix them to make them 100% perfect. And then what this will do is influence where I add some service roads. So vehicles will actually come into this service bay. So I need to provide some sort of access. So I'll add one there and one here. And then I think I want to have another access going up the side. And then I'll probably end the dealership lot right here. So we'll extend the parking lots all the way down. There is one thing I have a few regrets about though. I thought that I could just slope this and everything would turn out just fine. And it's not really working, and I can admit defeat. So what I will do is level things out to the buildings themselves. And then the rest of the fixes should be fairly straightforward, just need to level this out. And honestly, I think that that was a good call. It's gonna look a ton better. So now I'll just fill in the rest of the parking lots here. And now I wanna do a little bit of cleanup before we start adding all the cars to the lot. And I just took a couple of minutes off camera to do a little bit of cleanup. There was a whole bunch of lighting and props and signage throughout all of these parking lots. And knowing that we're about to plop a whole bunch of cars, I wanted to make sure that they were all gone so that they wouldn't be in our way and we wouldn't have to try to comb through all the cars later on to remove them. And while I was cleaning up this lot, I decided to do the rest of them. So now 100% of the props, lighting, and signage is gone through all the parking lots. And it just looks a ton cleaner. So now it's time to add all of our cars. And for this, we're going to be using Find It extensively. Because with this version of Find It, when you plop a vehicle, it becomes a prop. So we should be able to go through this relatively rapidly and just plop cars through here. So I want to have different sections where we're plopping different kinds of cars. And unfortunately, we are likely going to need to place these one by one. We could try to do the line tool, but it just honestly will probably end up pretty messy. So there's a couple of things I'm thinking of. I want to make sure that the cars are facing in the opposite direction they normally would. So they're going to be parked backwards. Thinking that maybe the dealership, and then I want to make sure that I'm not doing this completely regularly. So we're leaving gaps, we're in different spots in the parking lot, and things just feel a little bit off. That's the goal. And I think that'll do it for the smart cars. We're not going to do any more of those. We're going to try to have a realistic mix. And reasonably right now, there's probably a lot of trucks. So we're gonna have a lot of trucks, a lot of hatchbacks, a lot of minivans, probably not so many cars. And that's looking pretty darn good, but there are a couple more details that I want to add. The first is going to be right here, where I want to have some sort of a car display. And I've basically just tried to find the most exotic cars and place them on this little pad right there as a bit of a showpiece. And then right here, I reserved a bit of space for EV charging. And honestly, I'm really excited about the way this turned out. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. So with the auto dealership complete, let's move on to bringing transit into the area. Now, I'm about to do something that many of you are not going to like. I'm guessing that you're hoping that I'm going to bring the buses right to the front door of the store so that people have an easy time getting to wherever their final destination is. But that's not the way that we're going to handle this, and there's a couple of reasons. First of all, to drive up to each one of these stores would take a lot of time. That would be time that would be expensive. Oftentimes there wouldn't be many people getting off, and as a result, it wouldn't be very financially feasible to do that. It would also be a very narrow and constrained environment, which makes it difficult to navigate a bus around here. And then you compound that with the liability of having this big bus driving through a tight parking lot. It's just not great. So as a result, we're going to build a bus transfer center right here. I know I said that I was going to save this as a for sale parcel, but I think it actually makes a ton of sense as the transfer location. So the first thing that I want to do is modify the roadway network through here just a little bit. We've got this road that comes in askew a little bit, and I think we're going to formalize this as the primary movement through here. So we'll go with something like that, but this makes that right-hand turn into Anchor Street really messy. So we'll over-engineer it, and we're going to add a one-way right-hand turn. And then we'll control our turn movements like that to try to clean it up a little bit. And now that all of that is complete, let's add our bus center. And for this, I'm just going to have a one-way. And this isn't the fanciest thing in the world, but it's going to do the trick for us. So now I will design the routes. And I was thinking there was only going to be one, but I think I will actually have two. One will go to Lake Valley and the other will go to the harbor. And I'm going to try to have one bus on each of these if possible. I'm guessing that's going to be darn near impossible, but we'll give it a shot. So for this first one, I'll just go straight down and try to find an empty bay. Got one right here. And then for the second one, the exact same story, but out in Lake Valley. And this should be fairly simple. I believe that we've got a bunch of extra bays. We have one. Now we'll just configure each of these routes. We now have Mall Harbor and then Mall Lake Valley. Now, for both of these, we don't have vehicles, and that's because we have way too many assigned here. But beyond that, we can see that we have too many buses on some of our other routes. So I'm going to try to remove as many as I can on these routes as well. And after going through all of these, it looks like we're in a good place now, and we have a bus that's arriving to our little transfer center. So with our transit in place, let's move on to a bit of landscaping and detailing. There are 3 different types of projects that we're going to take on with our detailing today. The first will be roadway modifications. So that's things like adding street trees, removing parking, adjusting roads slightly so that the network makes more sense generally. So I know that I want to have street trees in the median. I know that I want this 2-lane segment to have a nicer transition to the 4-lane segment. And I know that in the parking lots, there are a couple of areas where we could simplify things. So we'll take all of those projects on. After that, we're going to take a look at each and every building and make sure that everything is right there. I just want to make sure that none of these icons are showing up because I didn't make connections. So we'll make those. We'll also spin around some of these buildings that are inappropriately faced the wrong direction. And I'll make sure that where I've missed things like this, I was supposed to have a road going through here. We'll make sure that I get that added. And then we'll do all of our surface work through here to make sure that things look finished. And then after that, we'll go through all of our parking lots and we'll add a ton of landscaping. Because this kind of project, if it were built today, would have a monster landscaping requirement. We want to make sure that we minimize the urban heat island effect as much as possible, which means generously landscaping this entire area. So with our plan in place, let's get landscaping. And that was a lot of trees, a lot of lights, a lot of surfaces, a lot of everything. But I think that this looks outstanding, and reasonably, I think it looks really realistic. So with all of that complete, there's only one more thing left to do. That's take inventory of what we've done with a brief city tour. Now, I know that this was a very polarizing build, and if you're from Europe, you're probably thinking this was terrible. It's the most American thing he's ever built. It's ugly. It's terrible. Please stop. If you're from North America, though, you might be thinking, I've seen this a million times, and I didn't know how to build it, and I'm glad he showed me. And that is one of the reasons I wanted to build it. The other reason, though, I wanted to build it is because I want to try to fix this. These are everywhere in North America. Every single community, regardless of the size, has one of these things. And because of that, it opens up an opportunity. Maybe we can urbanize these. Maybe we can make them better places. Maybe we can make them less cancerous on their communities. And the only way that I can try to do that is to build it, which is why I've done it. And honestly, I think it looks really good for what it is, and it was really fun to build. I've really come to enjoy deconstructing assets and putting them back together in the way that suits my build. And it's something that I know I said I wasn't going to do a lot of, I keep doing more of, and I'm really, really enjoying it. This is something that wasn't possible in Cities 1. It is possible in Cities 2, and because I can do it, I want to keep doing it. But even in the areas where I didn't do that, I had a ton of fun building. Like this car dealership, this was a blast. This is a build that I wanted to take on for quite some time, but I didn't have the assets to do it. I didn't have the roads, and I didn't have prop vehicles. But now that we have the parking lot roads and the Southwestern Region Pack, which has a car dealership included, and now that Find It has the ability to place prop cars, this build was totally possible. And I know it's over the top. There's too much landscaping, there's too much light, there's too many cars, but that is a car dealership, and it was a ton of fun to build. So basically, I'm saying thank you for indulging me. I know that this is not going to be everyone's favorite build, but I think it was a very necessary build, and that's why I decided to take it on. Another reason I decided to take it on, it added a ton of jobs. 1,227 employees work at this shopping center, which is really important for this entire build. Because even though I think unemployment is bugged, it still bothers me to see 42.6% unemployment. That is crazy. And if we can improve that at all by building jobs, we better do it. Before we go, I have one quick question for all of you. Do you want me to bring some decals into the build or not? Now, when assets are supported, I will absolutely bring them into the build, but doing so early is a little bit risky, and I know that some of you aren't necessarily on board for that. But the number one comment that I got in the last video that I saw over and over and over again was add murals to the sides of buildings in Lake Valley. And I could see adding movie posters as well, considering it is supposed to be a town with a major film festival. So it kind of makes some sense if you think about it. So let me know in the comments below, and if I see enough comments encouraging me to do so, I'll just bring them into the build, and it'll be something that we take on in the next one, which is going to be a really fun episode where I take a whole bunch of your feedback and incorporate it into the build, because there's quite a bit, and a lot of it is really going to change the way things feel. But until then, I think that we're going to leave it here. And I really hope that you've enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I want to thank you so much for your time today. There's a million things that you could have been doing. You decided to hang out with me and build about 3,000 parking stalls. And for that, I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.